Not all weakness looks loud. Some of it hides in the things you say to yourself when no one's around. Some in the things you avoid because they reveal too much. You don't feel it at first. It doesn't hit like failure. It doesn't break like betrayal. It just chips, quietly, daily. One skipped habit, one excuse. One time you let something slide and called it nothing. But it's not nothing. It's a slow collapse, internal, silent, a quiet undoing of everything you swore you'd protect. The Stoics didn't fear pain. They feared rot, the erosion of character, the parts of you that fall apart without making a sound. That's what we're talking about here. The habits that steal your spine while you're too distracted to notice. So ask yourself, what are you doing that slowly makes you less? And more importantly, are you still holding the keys? Or have you handed them to habits that don't deserve to rule you? Pain doesn't make you weak. Loss doesn't break you. Silence doesn't destroy you. But habits, they do. Not all at once, not with drama, but slowly. They enter as excuses, stay as patterns, and soon they become who you are without you even noticing. The wrong habits don't shout, they whisper, they soften your edge, they blur the line, they teach you to tolerate what once felt unacceptable, until one day you wake up smaller, quieter, unrecognizable to the person you once swore to become. The Stoics didn't fear failure, they feared rot. That quiet corrosion of soul when you betray yourself just a little, but every day. This isn't about avoiding pain, it's about not inviting it through what you allow. So no, this isn't a list of advice. This is a list of chains, 8 of them, forged by habit, hardened by repetition, disguised as normal. And if you're honest, if you truly listen, you might hear the metal clink when you move. So don't just watch, feel. Which one of these is still on your wrist, and which one? Are you finally ready to break? You know what needs to be done, but you wait, and somehow it always feels like not today. I'm tired, I'll start when I'm ready. It's just one more day. But it's not. It's a decision to abandon yourself in favor of comfort. To choose the feeling of now over the strength you could build tomorrow. The Stoics didn't fear weakness, they feared delay. Because delay is subtle. It wears no face, but it eats everything. One undone task becomes a pattern. One skipped promise becomes your new identity. And soon, you no longer trust yourself. Not because you failed, but because you let it slide again and again. Discipline isn't about control. It's about respect. Respect for your time, your word, your future self. Every moment you wait is a message. And that message says, I don't believe in me, not yet. But here's the truth. You will never feel fully ready. You will never wake up with perfect energy, perfect confidence, perfect circumstances. And yet, some people move anyway. Not because it's easy, but because they'd rather bleed now than rot later. You can wait for motivation, or you can move with none. That's Stoic. That's freedom. You don't rise by feeling ready. You rise by acting when it would have been easier to stay soft. So ask yourself, what have you been postponing, not because you can't, but because you're afraid of who you might become if you finally follow through? The answer to that is your first chain. And breaking it starts now. You have things. But do those things have you? The car, the phone, the numbers in the account, the likes on a post, the compliments from strangers, they feel good. For a moment. Until they don't. Until they own your mood. Until they decide your worth. Until you start measuring your value by things that could disappear tomorrow. The Stoics called it externals. What's outside you. What you can never truly control. And they warned. Anchor your identity there. And you're not living. You're renting. You are not your clothes. You are not your income. You are not the way people clap when you walk in. You are what remains when all of that is stripped, because it will be. Time takes everything, and when it does, what's left? What part of you is still standing when no one is watching and nothing can be shown? That's who you are. Not the image. Not the title, not the admiration you chase for years just to feel whole for seconds. True wealth isn't what you hold. It's what you can walk away from and still feel complete. So look around. What owns you? What do you fear losing? Because you think it defines you. Now look deeper. Would you still stand if no one saw you win? Would you still rise if your name was never known? Because the moment you let things decide your value, you become a product. And Stoics, they weren't made to be sold. So take it back. Your self-worth, your silence, your sovereignty. And remember, you can have the world without letting it have you. It's not the world, it's not their voice, it's yours. The one inside. The one that whispers when you fail, when you fall, when you're not enough again. It doesn't scream, it slices. You're a mess. You'll never change. Why even try? And you believe it. Not because it's true, but because it sounds familiar. You've heard it for so long you started thinking it was honesty. But that voice, that critic, isn't helping you grow. It's holding you hostage. Because shame doesn't build. It breaks. The Stoics never spoke with cruelty. They spoke with clarity. They knew the difference between correction and condemnation. One sharpens you, the other erases you. So ask yourself, would you say to someone you love what you say to yourself at 2 a.m.? Would you judge them for falling the way you judge your own stumbles? You think hating your weakness will make you stronger, but all it does is deepen the wound, because no one heals under attack. Not even you. Self-mastery doesn't start with control. It starts with compassion, with seeing your flaws without making them your identity, with knowing you are broken in places, yes, but that's where the light gets in. So next time the voice rises, don't argue, don't fight, just name it. I see you, but I won't obey. Because that voice is not you. It's a shadow, a memory, a scar that speaks louder than it should. And you're the one who listens. You're the one who can choose different. So do it. Speak back and speak soft. You know it's there. That conversation, that truth, that decision you keep delaying by distracting yourself with everything else. You scroll, you sleep, you stay busy. But deep down, you know what you're avoiding. And the longer you look away, the louder it grows. It doesn't disappear. It waits, quietly, until the weight becomes too much to pretend it's not there. The Stoics didn't run from pain. They studied it, stared into it until it lost the power to control them. Because what you avoid owns you. What you refuse to face becomes your master. The fear, the failure, the grief. It's not going anywhere until you walk toward it. Not to suffer, but to be free. Avoidance is easy. It rewards you now. But it chains you later. And those chains, they don't rattle. They numb. Until one day, you can't feel yourself anymore. That's how people lose themselves. Not in one crash, but in 1,000 small surrenders. So pause. What are you not facing? What truth are you afraid will crack you open? Here's what the Stoics knew. If it scares you, it likely holds the door to your next self. Go there. Not with fear, with focus. Walk in, sit down, listen. Because clarity doesn't live in escape. It lives in the things you resist most. And real strength isn't running from fire. It's learning to stand in it without losing your form. So stop avoiding. Go in and come out lighter. You post, you speak, you work harder. Not always to build, but to be seen. But here's the question. By who? Whose approval are you losing sleep for? Whose attention are you adjusting yourself to fit? And more importantly, do you even respect them? Because if not, why are you handing them the power to define your worth? The Stoics warned about this. They called it a kind of slavery. To tie your peace to the perception of others, especially those who can't even hold their own. You wear masks for people you wouldn't trade places with. You bend for voices you'd never trust with your truth. You seek applause from rooms full of echo. And the result? You forget what your own voice sounds like. Approval is not evil, but when it becomes a need, it becomes a chain. Because now you're chasing what you already had. Now you're proving what was never in question. Now you're molding yourself to fit a shape that was never you. So ask again, if their name wasn't attached, would their opinion still matter? If their life isn't something you admire, Why let their judgment define yours? You don't need to be seen by many. You need to be seen clearly by a few that matter. And first, by yourself. Clarity isn't loud. It's silent. It doesn't need applause. It needs alignment. So the next time you crave validation, pause and ask, would I follow the life of the one I'm trying to impress? If not, walk away and return to the one voice you can trust to build you back. Yours. It doesn't take much, a word, a tone, a look, and suddenly you're somewhere else. Not here, not now, just inside, burning, shaking, saying things you don't mean but can't unsay. This is what happens when emotions drive, and you're just a passenger with no hands on the wheel. Anger, jealousy, resentment, fear. They don't ask, they take. And if you're not aware, they run your life in moments so fast, you don't even realize you've handed them the keys. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't kill emotion. They contained it, they channeled it. They made it serve them, not the other way around. Because emotion is natural, but letting it lead is a choice. You are allowed to feel, but you are not required to follow. You can acknowledge the fire without throwing it. You can feel the fear without running. You can notice the envy without letting it rot your joy. Self-control isn't cold, it's warm and powerful, because it means you are strong enough to pause in a world that only reacts. Next time it rises, stop. Don't speak, don't act. Just see, this is anger, this is fear, this is sadness. And once you've named it, you've separated from it. That's the power. You are not what you feel. You are the space between the emotion and what you choose to do next. So guard that space. That space is your freedom. And the moment you master it, nothing can use you against yourself again. It's over, they're gone, the moment has passed, but inside it's still playing. The conversation, the mistake, the moment where everything changed. And even though time moved forward, part of you didn't. You smile, you function, but the loop is still running. Quiet, steady, sharp. This is what it means to be trapped, not in a place, but in a memory. The Stoics didn't say forget, they said release. They said, don't carry what no longer belongs. Pain is a visitor, but if you keep feeding it, it stays. It builds a room inside you and calls it home. You don't owe your past a throne. You don't owe your wounds a crown. Yes, it happened. Yes, it hurt. But you survived. And surviving means you get to move. You don't honor the past by bleeding for it daily. You honor it by walking forward, by becoming the version of yourself that event was meant to shape, not chain. So ask, are you living, or are you just rehearsing pain on a stage that's already empty? Are you present, or are you still holding on to a scene that's no longer in the script? You are not what happened. You are what you chose after it happened. And if you keep looking back, you miss what's in front of you now, what's possible, what's peaceful, what's next. So close the loop, not with rage, not with denial, with breath, with clarity, with stillness. Because the chain isn't the memory, it's your hand holding it. Let go and watch yourself return. You say, not my problem, not my fault, not my responsibility. And maybe you're right, but just because it's not yours doesn't mean it's nothing. Because how you move through this world, how you treat those who can't return the favor, how you walk past suffering and pretend not to feel it, that says more about your strength than any stoicism you perform. The Stoics weren't cold. They were grounded, firm, clear, but never cruel. They saw themselves as citizens of the world, not kings, not gods, not islands. They believed in responsibility not because they were told to, but because the soul degrades when it stops caring. You think compassion is weakness. It's not. It's restraint, it's discipline. It's saying, I could ignore this, but I won't. Because indifference is the easiest chain to wear. It feels like freedom, but slowly turns you into stone. You become hard, closed, untouched, unchanged. And maybe that protects you, but it also makes you forget what it means to feel human. So next time you're tempted to look away, don't. See them, the stranger, the broken, The one who reminds you of a version of yourself you swore you buried. You are not above, you are not beyond, you are not separate, you are one. And to forget that is to lose something vital. The ability to connect, to care, to step in when no one else does. That's not charity, that's character. And if you've made it this far, you didn't come here just to free yourself. You came here to carry something back. So don't step over them. Look, pause. Help if you can. Not because you must, but because you still can. And that is real power. You've seen the chains now, one by one. Quiet, familiar, heavy in ways that don't show from the outside. And maybe you've carried them for so long, you forgot they were there. But here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be untouched. You don't need to be emotionless to be strong. You just need to choose what to hold, what to release, what to rebuild from everything that once broke you. Strength isn't in how much you silence, it's in what you survive. And still stay kind. It's in what you feel and still stay still. You don't have to fight everything. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to wake up and not hand your power to the same habits that once made you small. That's Stoicism. That's sovereignty. And if today's the day you take back even one key, then you're no longer chained. You're becoming, quietly, unshakably. And that is the kind of strength no one can take.